Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nyambura and this is 101 Books. Behind there are my mom and Dawn. We are at Nairobi Contemporary Art Institute in Kai. And yeah, Dawn is showing my mom around and I am recording this video, so enjoy. So this week we are going to be doing, today, we are going to be doing my weekly roundup for the week ending 30th October 2022. I really haven't done this in such a long time and I've decided I'm just going to pick up and keep going and maybe at some point do some little catch up videos or whatever, but you know, we work with what we have. Memory. Anyway, I finished 3 books this week. The first of which was Invisible Child, Poverty, Survival and Hope in an American City by Andrea Elliott. And I listened to the audiobook, which was read by Adenrele Ojo, alongside reading the ebook. So this book follows this child, Dasani, who Elliott said following in 2013, and it follows her till about 2020. So 8 years or so of reporting, very immersive reporting. Like she almost became like a member of the family. I don't want to put it like that, but as a person who has a degree in anthropology, like this, it was really intriguing for me on that level, like that immersive level, like, you know, some measure of like participant observation and so on. And it's a very harrowing tale because as Elliot says in the afterword, it's easy to blame adults for the dire straits they find themselves in when they're poor or they're homeless and so on. It's another thing to approach it from the world of a child who is, you know, caught up in whatever circumstances their parents are caught up in. No one child chooses what their circumstances are going to be. And because we start following Dasani at such a young age, we see all of these different changes and how they affect her, all the things that the family is going through, the fact that she's parentified from such a young age, but also that she's such a fun kid, such a smart child, so driven, and does she make some decisions that, you know, we might not agree with as adults? Yes, but we're also adults, and I think that's important to remember that when one is reading it in their 30s, as I am, it's sometimes hard because you have all of this removed, your years and so on, to remember what one was like as a teenager, or even as a younger child. But yeah, it was so heartbreaking. I was talking to a friend of mine and she said that reading that book made her cry, and I get it. Like, it's, the family goes through a lot, but also you can tell that they have so much love for each other and so much care for each other, and it's unconventional at times, but it also makes you question conventions. You know, what does it mean for a state to, by which I mean a government, to have all of this money for all of these ways of splitting families, monitoring them, surveilling them and so on, but not be willing to put any of that money or time towards taking care of those families or keeping those families together. So, you know, much to think about, and I would highly recommend this. It's such good nonfiction. It comes in at over 20 hours on the audiobook, and a part of me was like, will I ever finish this? But there's no other way to say it. It's a really fast read. It moves really fast. It's propulsive, and yeah, I don't want to say I enjoyed it, but I came out of it educated and really rooting for Dasani and her family, especially because some of you may recall Andrea Elliott's original, you know, like reporting on Dasani's story in the New York Times, especially because, like, on some level, I'd been rooting for her for so many years, but she'd sort of gone to the back of my mind, and this brought her to the forefront. And yeah, I hope she's having a lovely day wherever she is, and I really wish her the best. I binged on a lot of podcast episodes in the wake of listening to the book, and watched a lot of videos, or at least listened to a lot of videos where Andrea Elliott speaks, and just every interview feels like, you know, a sound bibliography, like an oral bibliography that complements the book. So yeah, look out for those if you can. Next, today morning, actually, I'm recording this on the 30th, I finished Fake It Till You Bake It by Wesley. This is such a nice little romance novel, and it features um, young woman who is, a bit like Eve Brown, if you've read the Brown Sisters trilogy. So, he, she, he, who is he? She could be, further along than she is. She's sort of had what her family considers a failure to launch, and it's complicated by the fact that she's recently been on a reality show that did not end according to plan, at least according to the producer's plan, and it's generated all of this furore on social media. And then she starts to work at a bakery owned by a football player, American football. I'm going to say this for my non-American audiences. An American football player, so who's recently started a cupcakery, as it keeps being called, with two of his teammates. And yeah, sparks fly. It's fake dating meets class dynamics meets blackness that's uncommented on. It's not like, and so was black. It's like, people are black, the people in the universe of the book are mostly black, and that was also just really nice to read. I mentioned this in the Maktaba Manenos, the most recent Maktaba Manenos. I'm going to post a link downstairs. That it was Donna Reeds on Twitter that got me interested in picking up this book, and I'm so glad I did. It's a really lovely book. The way they come together, and even the conflict they have. Of course, is that third act conflict that a lot of romance novels have, but thankfully it wasn't one of those miscommunication ones. And it wasn't conflict per se, it was the sort of third act feature that I really appreciate. I would like for you to read it and find out what it is. And yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Then lastly, I finished this earlier today. It's really short actually, and I generally tend to listen to audiobooks at 2 to 3x. So as you can imagine, the short audiobook becomes even shorter. And that's Men Don't Cry by Faiza Guène, translated by Sarah Ardizone and read by Fejar Al-Casey. This book follows a man whose sister, so they're an Algerian French family. Sorry, Macron would say, they're only French. There's no abbreviated French identity or whatever, but they're a family of immigrant parents and children who've been born and brought up in France, who get estranged from the oldest child, who's a daughter. She sort of goes off into French society and breaks ties with them and so on. And the oldest in the family, who's the son, who the story is narrated from his point of view, is going out into the world now. He's recently gotten a teaching position in a school in Paris, and it's in a low-income area with all of the complications that brings. But he's living with his friend, a cousin of his, who's also his friend, who came from Algeria and is now living in France with a woman. As his cousin is like a gigolo, I would say. And so there's that space he's living in where people are classed a certain way, they're racialized a certain way, and also he's interacting with his sister, who he ends up reuniting with because his father has recently fallen ill, and he's like, I think it's important for her to know this. So they're navigating their new relationship. The last time they were together, he was a boy really, and now he's a man. And what does that mean for their relationship and all of that stuff? And yeah, we see him sort of navigating that, his French identity, his identity as the child of immigrants, as the child of people of a certain class, as a man who is educated, as a man who has sexual inexperience, for instance. And it's just so much fun. I mean, I honestly would like to read it again, just like slowly really engage with the text, so to speak, and look at the text. And the edition I read is published by Cassava Press, which is a Nigerian house. So also just to support an African publishing house for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed reading it, seeing how some of also the ways in which especially women navigate society are rendered by a man who is their relative and who is observing them from a certain lens, from a certain perspective, and so on, as is the case with the narrator. And yeah, that's it actually. Those are the 3 books I finished this week. 2 of them finished today. It wasn't, the most productive reading wise, but I did finish 3 books and I enjoyed them. And there's a lot to be said for that. I think, of course, we've all said this before. Booktube can create the impression sometimes that everybody's reading 100,000 books, but we are a minority, and yeah. So I'm reminding myself of that for perspective, if nothing else. So yeah, that's this week's weekly roundup. Hopefully, I'll be back next Sunday with another SAT check-in. And have a lovely week reading. Talk to you soon. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and all the good things. Bye.